Tottenham 1, Wolves 2. You were there.
Oh, I forgot about that.
What happened?
I mean, look, first thing to say is that Wolves were deserving winners. No question at all. Excellently organised defensively and a really, really good threat on turnovers, whether that was high or through transition and really fast counter-attacking through. I mean, the Neto goal and the second, you see the outlet about how quick he is. Emerson Royal.
I didn't realise how quick
Emerson Royal has to come across to him a lot quicker. He's actually been linked with a move to us a lot in the last couple of weeks.
Neto.
Yeah.
Same with Arsenal, actually.
Which I'll save more of my Tottenham wide player rant for, I think, the Patreon podcast on Wednesday, because I don't want to take away from Wolves.
Sure.
Really good performance. I think the interesting FPL aspect of this going into this week, and I'm going to do a piece on Hwang and Neto for talking tactics this week on Patreon, is I'm actually going to do a fantasy-based talking tactics, because I think that's a big debate this week. We spoke about Odegaard instead of Kudos, but there's this as well.
Yeah, they got a decent run.
What about Hwang or Neto,
yeah,
right?
Sheffield United, Newcastle, Fulham, Bournemouth.
Well, Bournemouth, we don't know is going to happen.
Yeah.
And you might be carrying Bournemouth asset, but you might only carry Solanke. So if you've got Hwang or Neto, like, it's fine. It's not conflicting to have two offensive players from two different teams playing each other. It could be 2-2, for example. That's absolutely fine. But which one's quite difficult? I don't know the answer yet. Okay. And I'm almost definitely liable to buy one of them in Sky Fantasy Football this weekend as well.
Sarabia not in the conversation?
Nah.
Okay.
I'm really keen to look at some of the data and also the positioning. Because the thing that struck me, I'd been saying all last week that I thought Neto would play as the 9 against us, even with Cunha out. I thought Hwang would play a wider role. And my theory on that was that in terms of the tracking that you have to do against Tottenham's fullbacks and the areas that they move into, you don't want Neto going back with Porro or Udogie. Now, once those two were ruled out, that's a different proposition. You've still got the same problem where Davis and Royal will move into those players, but it's two things. One, it's not as big of a threat. And the second thing I really thought was, well, Neto will play against Davis.
Yeah.
Because you'll eat him alive for pace. And ironically, if you've not seen a lot of the game and not looked at heat maps, etc., you might think, well, where did he attack for the second goal? But it's just a break from a corner.
Yeah.
Played on the left.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah. But it's the moment of joy where he's actually hit from the right-hand side there. Admittedly, Davis is well out of position. Then he ends up facing up Royal. That's obviously created that real moment of joy for them. And I don't know what the answer is yet. And I want to investigate it more in terms of where they play at the weekend. Because the one thing we should say about Sheffield United is these batterings that they've taken recently, they've all been at Bramall Lane.
Yeah.
Rather than the good performance at Luton last week that we've already forgotten about.
Yep.
The good draw that they got at Aston Villa, for example, as well, which they deserved that. They defended really well on that particular evening. And I wonder as well, reflecting on Wolves losing to Brentford last week. And Wolves, I think, have won 4 away games in a row now in the Premier League. Check if that's correct. But certainly includes over the last 2 excellent and deserving and brilliant counter-attacking display victories at 2 teams that traditionally you would expect to beat them in Chelsea and Tottenham.
Yeah, previously was...
Drew at Brighton.
Yeah.
It might be 4 unbeaten. That's a great result as well.
And then Brentford was before that away.
And they won, was it 4-1 at Brentford?
4-1, yeah.
What was before that?
In terms of away, they lost at West Ham, but they beat Chelsea at home.
Yes.
But yeah, that's...
Well, Paquetá was available, so to spin your narrative. So look, really good. And I do think there's a case to say that this almost playing the bigger teams might be a little bit more suitable for them at the moment. I think teams like them who play with essentially 2 in midfield, and they were both outstanding, with the wing backs and back threes that, let's say, to be kind, not the best on the ball. None of them terrible, but you know, you're not going to have Dawson stepping into midfield and stuff like that. Kilman is quite comfortable on the ball, but not exceptional in my opinion. And I think similar applies to Toti Gomez. So their distribution into midfield isn't exceptional to punch it. So their domination of games, they are almost better off perhaps playing against an opponent who the space is going to be when you win it on turnovers and transition. So there's that to factor in, because Sheffield United are probably going to go to Wolves at the weekend and say, go on in what you
Have
got.
it, yeah.
And for a speedster like Neto, you obviously want the space. But also, there's a case to say with the likes of Hwang, will he get the opportunities?
Yeah. Thing with
I don't think it's as straightforward as it looks. That's all. And I want to do a bit more of a deep diving because I think the brain this morning thinks, well, they won at Chelsea, they won at Tottenham, they deserve to win both.
It's Sheffield United.
I've forgotten about Brentford at home.
You look at the profile.
I've forgotten about Brentford at home.
Yeah.
And the Brentford at home is way more comparable to Sheffield United, even system.
Yeah.
Brentford would have gone a back five without the ball. What Sheffield United going to do at the weekend? Probably the same. So I want to investigate that in a little bit more.
Cool.
It's not to put anybody off necessarily, but I think it's a really close call on Hwang versus Neto, and I want to deep dive into it a bit more.
There'll be a lot of people, obviously, on Tottenham and planning towards 29. Was there anything offensively that was a concern from Tottenham in this game?
Loads.
Oh, really? I've not seen. I've just seen the highlights.
Yeah. I think pound for pound, that was probably our worst performance of the season.
Okay.
Again, I don't want to take anything away from how good.
Is it because of the
Wolves
fullbacks not being?
No, creativity was bad. The atmosphere was flat, but the atmosphere was flat, I think, part caused by a really good defensive display from Wolves and our attacking players being under par. James Maddison didn't play well, in all honesty, and that's been a rarity for us this season. Yeah, not good offensive. Richarlison really quiet, but he had next to no service at all, got sacrificed. Then he played Werner up front for a bit. I don't think Werner touched the ball over that period.
Okay.
Then right at the death, he changed it and put Werner on the left and put Son up front. Ultimately, I'll talk this in more detail on Patreon, as I said, but cut a long story short, Tottenham don't have a wide player who can take a man on.
Okay.
And it's making it very easy to defend against because you just sit there, even with a back five, and you go narrow, penalty area width, go wide. Would deal with it. If you to contradict what I've said about the Wolves defenders in terms of possession, when the ball's coming into the box, you ain't beating Dawson and that in the air, are you? They're all strong in the area and stuff. So it played very much into Wolves' hands, and they probably deserve to beat us on the second occasion this season. Obviously, you're not looking at Tottenham assets this week, but as discussed, you probably will again going into game with 27.
And right now, I'm looking at Son as an entry point, and that would you say I should be put off or carry on with that plan?
It's got tougher than it was, purely because there's more options. Mm-hmm. I think we should look at all Richarlison's returns and say it's over a period where there was guarantees of minutes and he's gone off earlier this one. I think when it's not going well, you are more likely to see Son move into a sanctuary, or even he's decided to do it with Werner for a period at the weekend and Richarlison go off, because Richarlison is way more suited. The less dominance Tottenham have, the way more suited Richarlison is. Even if you think some of them better fixtures we had over that period of all those returns, even like Everton at home, lucky. Bournemouth at home, they had a really good spell and we struggled for a massive period in that game as well. Partly because of the amount of absentees we had, no control at that time. Now it's almost like all the cooks are back. There's no excuse for Tottenham now for that performance at the weekend, right?
Porro and Udogie is quite big.
Yeah, you can say the two fullbacks, but it's two fullbacks. I'm not going to use it as an excuse. Yeah. In terms of the offensive stuff, yes, they do have a big role in that, but I'm not sure that we'd have been any better off
with them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
I'm not sure, because I think the likes of Maddison and Son and that didn't play particularly well.
Sure.
So it's becoming... This is a criticism of Ange, and I think it's fair, because he's been there long enough now. It's a bit samey. There's nothing wrong with the play we're playing, but I would like, on occasions like this, it's almost now, and it might be that he wants them to play a certain way as almost like plan A. I want plan A to be perfect before we start looking at plan A longer terms.
Sure.
I think that sort of thing happened with Arteta and Arsenal.
Yeah, there's your principles to get embedded, and then
it's
you look
a long
at
time before we
variations.
started seeing inverted fullbacks and the like. And I think there's possibly a process of that, right? Perfect this first, and Tottenham are not perfecting this yet, right? Control of games is not as good enough. But I think I want to see more variation where we go, no, actually, today... We've got Ben Davies playing left back, so actually we're going to build in a back three and we're just going to push Emerson Royal into midfield and do something a bit different. And the same things are happening and teams are getting used to it.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Now, should you be put off by Tottenham having a good fixture and getting 29, a good fixture in 27, and I think even for the offensive guys, I don't think Villa away is terrible now either, actually. I don't think it's great for the defensive players, obviously, that particular fixture. But even 27 at home, if Porro and Udogie are back,
Well, what do you know?
Palace at home 27 is good.
What's the consensus on that? Do you know? Because I've got Porro. I'm sure people will have both.
Udogie would be very confident back 27. Porro's going to be borderline. You're probably not going to get any update this week because we don't play.
Yeah, I'm looking to just keep Porro until like 28, 29 and then see if I need to.
That's the more sensible solution. If you've got something like that at the moment, you know, if you've got a Jota and, you know, Jota's going to be out for ages, it does feel like there's probably more midfield assets that you'd want to target this week rather than the defensive ones. Even if we think about like Villa as an alternative or West Ham or even Brentford, I think you almost want to wait a bit longer for them. That said, as I mentioned on Thursday, if you want to take the hits in a 29, you want to do it more for defensive players.
Yeah, true.
So that's a little contradictory. I probably wouldn't steam into the Tottenham side of it, but if I was a Porro owner, which I am, yeah, he's staying for me. He's definitely not going this week.
Yeah.
Let me at least get some more info on that.
Cool.
Getting the attacking one next week, going to be difficult. I think.
What Tottenham have you got right now? Just Porro?
Just Porro, yeah. I think if I had to buy one in 27, it would be Son. 2 reasons for that. One is minutes, 2 is penalties.
Okay.
Other than that, I can't give you much of a reason why over the others, other than I think you might begin to doubt Richarlison's expected minutes a little bit. That doesn't mean, again, I think if you own, that's a better one to hold this week. And even if you get to 29 and Richarlison wasn't in the 11 or you had doubts about it, you're definitely getting on the pitch.
Yeah.
So it's probably not something to be worth a -4 to like smash him out at the end. So those who've got are probably going to hold in most circumstances. But yeah, the decision on Tottenham for 27, I think, has just become tougher. My outlook on Son will be as well that most people will probably be able to afford him. So do so because of the expected minutes for him.
That security you get.
And the penalties. But I wouldn't be bullish about it.
Sure.
That's the honest answer. For Wolves, just one more thing as well. I did say they were great. The midfield too, brilliant. João Gomez will get the headlines for obviously the goals, but he's ball winning, really good as well. Similar to Lamina, that is a really, really tough job from midfield two to play against our control because of we just overload that central area, right? You can get swamped and done over in there. But they sat off at the right times, they pressed at the right times, they were aggressive at the right times, and when they got it, their distribution was good into the front three. So those two in midfield were really, really good for Wolves.
Nice one. Let's keep it moving because, as you and I do when we talk football, we go on. So
I think 8 Nori if you want a Wolves defender short term, Dawson if you want something a little bit more longer term, maybe.
Bullet header incoming.